forward for us and certainly talk to us just a little bit. We wanted to take an opportunity to recognize Coach Snyder and obviously Coach Snyder. That's right, Snyder. Also Coach Wingo and Coach Wingard on a fantastic wrestling season yet again that's still not over. These guys just continue to amaze, continue to win. Basically, the motto just has to be who's next, because that's what we take care of. And so I wanted to offer an opportunity for Coach Snyder to be recognized this evening. Give a little statistical history, if you could. Just tell us what you guys have accomplished yet again.
Thank you, sir. If our wrestlers, if they would stand up. And you guys would come all over this way. We had practice today. And cut it short so they get a shower and get here. But I'd like
Thank
to
you for that.
Guys. You could just say your name and your mic so they can go and your weight class.
Nick Windsor, 182. Matthew Bell, 70.
Just 2 seconds.
Jake Barker, 195. Good guy, what's up? What do you want to see move to it, bro?
Keeping sharp, 138. Sam Snyder's too big to mention. But this is my son Joshua, and I'm so grateful that we were able to bring him over from Fannin this past year to join us. And a little bit of statistical data. These guys are all starters throughout the year and very helpful to our team, and we are grateful for your appreciation for what we do. Began in 1998. They made me the head coach, and I had been a first state champion in 1981 for our school system of wrestling. And in 1998, we placed fourth in the state because of Noah Harris. Noah Harris led the team, was a great leader, and we know the benefit of sports and drama and the other things that young man did have paid great dividends to our kids and to our county. And so he helped to start this, which has occurred for a long time. 2003, we were fourth in the state. 2004, we were fourth in the state. Finally, 2005, we were state champion in duels and traditionals. And since that time, we have won 14 state championships. And this Saturday, me and my son and all these guys want to invite you to come and make it. At noon, they'll be having third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, 2 o'clock finals. All that time there, you can see the Gilmer High School Bobcats win their 15th state championship. Now, why am I so confident about that? We had 12 seniors last year. We had 14 weight classes. We had 12 seniors. We graduated 12 seniors. 8 of them were starters. They had all won state championships as a team, and we thought it was a rebuilding season. Instead, no one told these guys it was rebuilding. And so we have 2 seniors this year, Will Gudger, and you know his mother teaching our school system, Jamie Lopez. We have 2 seniors, and these guys have filled the gaps and have done incredibly well. We qualified 14 out of 14 from the area to state, 8 teams in the region. 12 of our guys were in the finals of the region. Went to sectionals against 30-something teams, and we put 9 out of 14 in the finals and qualified 14 kids total for state and came away with 6 individual champions. And we truly believe that we could win 8 or 9 individual state championships this weekend, and we could win the state by quite a bit. And we appreciate your support. We just want to invite you to come. I know it was mentioned back in October about possibly some match day off of Whitmore and Mantar getting over. Anything that y'all can do to help, we appreciate it. It's one of those sports where we fill up the Coliseum with screaming for people, and it makes our kids go nuts. They really wrestle hard. And many of those folks that come are right out here in the group here, and they paint their hair and they do all kinds of funny things. Stacy Nicholson gives us a police escort every year around the square. We come in at 10 o'clock at night or midnight, and these crazy folks are screaming on the square. So it's been a great testimony to our community. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you guys.
Do you paint your hair?
I got pictures, man.
They painted a purple Jeep, and it really didn't look too good. But we have worn Happy Feet, purple Happy Feet. We have worn Lincoln jackets. We do a lot of interesting things to try to keep the guys loose. But I am getting older. And this could go on for 20 more years. Because we need your help. We do. we do coach 40 to 50 kids. Out of 14 starters this weekend, 7 of them's parents have never come to a match. Wrestling needs something to do. And we need support. Because winning state, if you think about it, you know, I'm going to be careful how I say this. If other sports won state once, this place would go less. And I think we've forgotten the sacrifices these guys made. 15-time state champions. And I think they deserve a lot. Because no one thought in the state that we could come back and do what we did this year. I don't need the praise. I'm going to be retired soon. These guys need a pat on the back.
We have one more additional presentation this evening. That is by Mountain View Elementary School.
Thursday.
We're going to present Thursday, Mountain View Elementary School.
We'll be here Thursday.
So part of education is flexibility. So we will move on then, Mr. Chairman, to item number 1.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you again. We want to say thank you for the blessings. Thank you for these guys who participate and throughout the state of Georgia. And we are a contender, and people know who Gilmer County is when it comes to wrestling. Lord, we just ask you to continue to bless them, bless the parents, our kids, Father, and as we make decisions tonight for what's best for our students in Gilmer County, we just ask you to be with us, lead, guide us, and direct us. These things we ask in our holy and humble name.
Item number 2 be pledge of allegiance. If you please rise and join with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next will be our approval of agenda. I would ask that you note the agenda and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. If no questions or concerns, we can move on to line item 4, consent items. Looking at line item A, we'll be looking at our Board of Education minutes, and you have 4 sets of minutes this evening. You have a set of minutes from January the 12th, which is our work session, January the 15th, which is our called session, January the 15th, which is a regular meeting, and then January the 22nd, which is a called meeting. And I will certainly give you just a moment to take a look. Now, if you look at your notes, we do have those 4 sets of minutes, and I'm going to give you just a moment to look at those minutes, and then please let me know if you have any questions or concerns regarding those 4 sets of minutes. out-of-state or overnight field trips. You do have those noted there in front of you. We do have several academic field trips from Gilmer High School for Skills USA. This is March the 26th through the 28th, and this will be in Atlanta for the state competition. And also, we will be looking at student activities. This will be Gilmer High School, and you have two listed there, but only one will take place. One will be a makeup. So first, we have listed for University Studios for senior graduation batch. That is in May. And if that one is not able to make based on numbers, then we'll look at the alternative, which is Gilmer High School 12th grade senior activities at Dollywood Pigeon Forge. So it would be my recommendation on Thursday that we look to approve these field trips.
And the Orlando is only 2 days?
Yes, sir. It is, from what I understand, it is a down and back. That is a long haul.
Did we do the second one last year?
I think we went down and back to Orlando last year too.
Okay.
It's a long ride on that bus.
Is this a school bus for going?
No, it's just a
park bus.
Any other questions about those field trips? All right. Then we'll be moving on to our next line item, the superintendent's report. I will ask Ms. Trina Finland to come forward. This will be for our finance report.
Our financial report for the month is for the July through December. This is 6 months into the fiscal year at this time, and our revenues are, we have collected revenue 67.16% of our budgeted revenues. The driving factor behind that is our local property taxes. We have collected 83.72%. Our expenditures, our total expenditures are 46.87% of budgeted expenditures. That's 3.13% below what we have budgeted for the year. With that being said, our total year-to-date through December excess of revenues over expenditures is $4.6 million. Added to our beginning fund balance of $18 million leaves us with a $22.6 million fund balance at the end of December. And again, this is because of the timing of the property taxes. The revenue is really coming in and the expenses are tracking closer to budgeted schedule. That being said, we still have some of the same items to report on the expenditures that I've been reporting for the past several months. Not much change there through December. We are seeing the improvement of instruction. It is 3.59% over budget, which is, again, this reallocation of employees after the budget was completed. General admin, again, some of the reallocation, the EEOC claim, this reporter's expense, attorney fees, and school board dues being paid at the first of the year. The total is 7.7% over
copies of all of this, and I want you to kind of help, if you don't mind, please explaining to us exactly what they're kind of looking at as far as the trend. We tried to put together some information for you looking at the CCRPI, and certainly looking at what is our rated indicators as we continue to move forward. Now, CCRPI for 2015 and those themselves have still not been set yet. We don't know what our benchmarking is for this point. But what we tried to do was make sure that you had a listing of at least 12, 13, and 14 to show you how we rank as a system, as well as also show you the individual breakdown by each score, or excuse me, each school, how they look in reading, how they look in each of their performance quartile, whether that be reading, math, science, social studies, looking at English language arts bands and students with disability, as well as looking at Lexile levels. So we wanted to make sure you had this information. These reports are not finalized, as there still are several pieces that we are waiting for regarding the finality of the score. So Ms. Mitchell, if you could just tell me about the interrater reliability and also the financial reporting.
Yes. One thing that they have not released yet is the financial efficiency or the school climate survey. That will be part of our score for last year. All we have right now is the end of course test and the CRCT scores.
That is correct. So what you have in front of you is just a complete breakdown. We will make sure that this information, I have shared it with Mr. Hofstetter already. He can pull it off of the shared file and put it on our district webpage so that this information is on there as well. So that's already been on. But questions about CCRPI and any of the scores of the ratings that you're looking at currently? Certainly, once you go through this, because it is a absolute plethora of information, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to notify Ms. Mitchell or myself, and we will certainly help decipher any of it. But definitely wanted you to have that information. And again, we will note it for the public, and we will have that posted at the end of this evening. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Hustler, we are looking at compliance and policy at this point, which is line item C. We have several things that we're going to be looking at in regards to policy approval and also policy that will lay on the table for 30 days for board approval.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for being here. We have 3 policies that we're laying on the table since last month, and those policies are all related to board member code of ethics, board member conflict of interest, and the nepotism. And I don't think we had any real changes, or basically word for word for what the law says. So I don't know if there's a whole lot of leeway there to do anything with it.
Certainly, there are already recommendations to change any of those. They have been noted for the last 30 days, but we still have time prior to the approval on Thursday if any recommendations or changes like we made on any of those 3. Otherwise, we will be looking for recommendations for approval.
Okay, for this month we have several new policies we have to do according to our schedule. Policy BCPI, which is our public participation board meetings, is up for review, or if there's any changes or edits, you should have copies of it with you in there. In addition to that is also the board procedure, what we call the administrative rule. That would be something else that would be good practice for the board to approve in this case. And then we have our one exhibit, which is the actual form, and that would help with our public participation. The next one is IFCB, which will be a new policy for us, and it's field trips and excursions. Again, you should have a copy there. Basically what that does is it outlines and defines where the board is going to approve field trips. Currently our practice has been overnight and out of state, and we do that for risk management or insurance reasons. However, we do not have a policy, and they recommend that we should have a policy to guide those. And that one there will be also for your review, and which that the board would automatically approve, and which one that the board would have to approve individually. The next series of policies are all related to our finance. These just needed some good updating. They haven't been updated in many years. First one is DC, which is our annual operating budget. And here what we've done is update the language to reflect more of the current terminology that's used in the laws and in the guidebooks. Okay. And we've also added a level of budgetary control. And that in itself is a separate policy. However, for matters of efficiency, we are allowed to just include that into one so that we can see. And so what we've done is combine those two as an updated policy. The next one is DCH, which goes a bit more about budget periodic, budget reconciliation. And basically what it just says there is it's really just updating our language. There's no real change in the content. It just basically says that we will budget and do a reconciliation every month and present that to the board. That's part of board policy. The next one is DCL, which is fund balance. And what we've done here again is update the language to reflect more of the current practices and some of the more modern language. It also defines and prioritizes fund balances, so it goes a little bit more in depth about how the fund balance is to be spent if the need arises and
allocated a certain amount that you can carry over. But again, the federal government is very intent on ensuring that what they give us, we use. And so there are specific stipulations that go along with that. And that's why it's so important, so vital for programs like Ms. Mitchell through Title I to make sure that everything is audited and monitored, because we really have to make sure they are for innovative uses outside of the normal spectrum of what we provide to the school system. But again, there's stipulations that go along with what they expect us to do with it. So.
Special
not also include is the 30-hour, under 30-hour employee exemption, or I'm sorry, ineligibility for the state health benefit fund. Primarily affects our school bus drivers who work less than 30 hours. Again, that is not a bill, that is in the governor's budget, so it's not a bill that needs to be passed. And they are currently working on that, pretty quiet the last couple of days, so we'll see how that starts to show.
Can I ask a question? How many elected personnel do we have involved in that under 30 hours?
Yeah, the largest impact obviously would be our bus fleet.
Right. Out of our 52 drivers, we're estimating about 40 of them that would have direct impact. The rest are over 30 hours.
That was their request to be 4 hours, because they work 6 hours a day. They're older and they asked them over the rest.
They get benefits anyway?
Yes.
Or-
So we'll be updating this as we go. And if we have any answer any questions or policy.
Any questions at this time, Ms. Costello, on any of the policies that are to be approved, that are on Thursday, that are to lay on the table for the next 30 days, and or any questions just on the Georgia General Assembly and updates from last week's letter sent represented. Yes.
Yes, sir, we've already participated in that. The Georgia Association for Pupil Transportation, which is the main governing body for school buses in Georgia, they are actively pursuing that, along with a couple other groups. But we have signed on with them to show our support, and so that it is a difficult problem like everything else. Things are getting costly, and there's some conflicts with less than 30-hour employees, is our understanding. So that's, but we have said that we will have a hard time getting bus drivers for any amount of money if we don't have the benefits. I'm not sure we can fund enough if we don't have the benefits. It's already a struggle as it is.
Any additional questions at this time? First, we're going to go ahead and move forward to the e-boardsmanship. Part of our advanced ed review was to take a look at the subsections of each of the e-boardsmanship manuals. Last week we had a brief discussion over the governance of public education, which was chapter 1. And certainly we would entertain any questions that may have come from chapter 1. This evening we were supposed to be looking at the today's school board member. This is chapter 2, and Mr. Farmer, I don't know if you want to kind of lead that conversation.
I will. I went through it. First of all, I got a question on the compensation and expenses. We're not asking for more money. You know, we don't make $1 an hour, but not all the time. But we subscribe to e-board and e-law. Is that correct? In the past, I've tried to get into that. Do we have passwords as far as board members for that and usernames? Can we?
Yes, sir, you do.
You do.
We'll have to give
Send those.
Yes, we will do that. We'll have Westmoreland contact GFDA and have them give it to you. They send you those passwords.
Because I don't remember ever getting them. We never got them. I'd like to be able to do that.
It'll give you a lot more options when you log in. Okay.
Let me just go through it. Here's some things that I kind of keyed in on, and please, interrupt, stop, do whatever. On the responsibilities of the office of a board member, I kind of went through. There's a bunch of them there, and these are all good. But let me kind of mention the ones that I kind of highlighted. As a board member, we are to vote for the best interest of the students at all times, and we know that. And sometimes we get caught up in things and we think about other things, but that was the number one thing there. We also need to remember that the rules of confidentiality, especially in decisions concerning personnel, students, attorney-client communication, land acquisition, that has to be maintained. Now, I think we all know that. We sometimes need to be reminded. We also need to learn and practice the art of compromise. We're not all going to get our way, so we have to learn that. Support the board's decision once it's made, even if you voted against it. We all kind of said that's what we're going to do when we came into this office. And the last one I did on that one, they're all good there, but be willing to learn. Be willing to learn. I think we've all learned a lot in the last 2 years. Any comments, questions about those key areas? I know all of them are good. Anybody want to make any other comments? down to the domains, you got the governance structure. Of course, we've been involved in a lot of that. But going into strategic planning, domain 2, we need to remind ourselves to render all decisions based on available facts about his or her independent judgment, and refuse to surrender his or her judgment to individual or special interest groups. Because we're put in here to, first of all, need to know all the facts. I know as a principal, sometimes I make decisions. I may have suspended somebody, or back here today I paddled somebody, the parents come in and they tell me something I didn't know, and I have to say to them, well, ma'am, if I had known that beforehand, I'm sure I wouldn't have to have that job. I can't take it back. And if they've already had their suspension, I can't take that back either. So we make decisions based on the information that we have, and we need information. And then in domain 3, seek regular and systematic communication among board members, students, staff, and community. Sometimes that's kind of hard when we kind of don't get that opportunity. Maybe at meetings we're going to do forums. That would be a group of a lot of people, and we can all be there. And I apologize for not being there the last time. I think I was in Mexico or something. Anyway, then I'm going on down to board meetings. Number 7, it said express opinions before voting. Yes, but after the board voted, abide by the support majority decision, just like we said before. Okay. Conduct as a board member, domain 7. Devote sufficient time throughout and study to the performance of the duties and responsibilities of a member of the board. I think all of you, and Maureen, you've got an experience to come. If you look at the amount of time that we have spent, and Michael, you've got how many years in this thing? And how much time? We spend a lot of time, not so much in the board meetings, even though it's longer than it used to be, but we spend a lot of time reading things, talking to people, talking to each other, and so it's not a thankful job. Let's put it that way. All right. Anything else on the domain? Anybody have any other points or comments? All right. No.
I was going to go. I want you to go into accreditation.
All right. Go to the accreditation. I didn't mark anything on that one. Go ahead and talk about it.
Well, it's just that we've gone through. I hope we've gone through the thing for the last time that everybody should know about accreditation, which is not SACS anymore. It's advanced ed. So that was just one of the things that I looked at, and I read again through it thoroughly. That they are not. They can tell us what to do, even if they say they're not governing body. They can tell us our kids don't get scholarships and everything else. So I just want all board members to read that.
Any other comments? Good.
Absolutely. I think in looking at this is something we have absolutely covered specifically within the last 4 or 5 months, really ensuring that we're aware of these processes. So I certainly am appreciative again of going through the opportunity to look at this and make sure that we maintain our compliance. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you leading that. All right, we have one more presentation. We had talked a little bit, as Ms. Thomas was mentioning to us in the strategic planning meeting the other day. We kind of looked at some, around the idea of some calendar options and kind of look at this. And again, this is certainly not anything for an approval or a vote coming up, but we want you to have ideas and thoughts, concrete images in hand, because the calendar is going to be one of the largest budget proposals that we really take a look at. Because one way or the other, it could shift the balance for budgeting
three main things, right? Raise achievement, enrich learning, and push empower the teachers. We talk about empowering teachers, we're primarily speaking about professional learning, keeping up to speed. Okay? And there's obviously some things that we need to recognize in doing that. You can see those there. But we have to find what is right for outcome. A couple of considerations when we build a school calendar. We like to end the first semester prior to the winter holidays. As teachers, as administrators, as families, it's hard to come back after the holidays and take exams. We try to get all that done prior to. So those are some of the considerations there. Ending second semester to Memorial Day has been a long-standing tradition in Gilmer County for the last several years anyway. We also looked at our first and second semesters as equal days. Now, that depends on the schedule that you have. Currently at our high school, it's block schedule because there are 2 semesters. We try to keep those equal as best as possible and allow them with the calendar to meet those needs. We also have to look at required holidays, state and federal. Traditionally, spring break has been the first full week or the first week following the first Sunday in April. That's been sort of the norm. We generally provide 10 working days beyond the student calendar for our staff. And what we have to look for about scheduling breaks. We have FTE days, which generally those counts run in the first week of October and the first week of March. So we want to definitely be in school during those times because we have to do those counts on those particular days. And of course, we have to look at the testing windows, how to go over milestones. You can take a break right before, you wait till after, during. We don't have to do, but you have to somehow get your testing. And of course, before the investment children during all that. All right, that being said, here's some of the rules and guidelines that we have to do. Now, the school year, a lot of people talk about 180 days, and we always kid each other what's so magical about 180 days anyway. I don't know why it's not 200 or 195 or 150, but 180 is how they basically base the funding here in Georgia for many years. Okay? But if you multiply that out, the bottom line is for grades 6 through 12, you must have 59,400 instructional minutes. And that is what they call an instructional year, or the equivalent thereof. Okay? And you can see there the state rules on the right-hand side, and then what the equivalents are for grades K through 12. Now, in Gilmer County school system, on our current 178-day calendar, because we extend the time each day, if you look at instructional minutes, we are currently exceeding public, so we are actually going way beyond the equivalent of 180 school days compressed into 178. And as you can see there, even in kindergarten, they're required 48,000. We're giving them an extra 8,000 minutes of instructional time during the entire course of the year. Other considerations, we're looking at what our charter can do for us about waiving certain amounts of seat time. We have to be careful about accreditation because what the state may allow where accreditation says you cut down too much, colleges aren't going to like that. We have to somehow find it. Nobody seems to have the magic number on that one.
And one of the other things we're certainly watching as far as high school is concerned is making sure that we have enough time to receive a Carnegie unit. That is different than necessarily what we may equate to a seat time. So we want to make sure that the courses we are offering, we're offering in enough amount of time that students are obviously going to get credit for the courses they move forward in the post-secondary opportunities.
And of course, the importance of setting the calendar early will also drive which type of schedule you're going to run within your schools, because it does allow individual classes how much instructional time you're getting, as opposed to the entire school offering all classes. So that's what we got to kind of balance the two difference. So with that, we're directed to look at a few calendars, and you have copies of those there just so you can take a look, and I'll pull them up here real quick. I'm going to start back with you. Excuse me. Okay, well.
We're about to talk about it.
Yeah. There are several. There's about 3 systems that we know of that are currently in a 144 school year. Now, where you basically see that is what they used to call a 4-day school week. You're seeing it in Chattooga County, you're seeing it in Pike County. Actually, Pike's a little different. They decided to start after Labor Day, go straight through. So instead of doing 4 days, they just compress the start and end days and end up 140. They actually go 148 days. But it's a kind of
time when they get, or the teacher being, they're not being cut.
Correct. That's what we're going to talk about. Sure.
That's not supportive of that, but or maybe more business and parents. But if that's something that the community did want to entertain, I would recommend at least a year a little bit of planning and getting things ready, because there's a lot of things we need to do to make sure we're educating all of that. Yes, ma'am.
You know, to be very honest, on all of these calendars with reduced days, you would think that would be the cause and effect. It is not. Human nature gets in that people are used to spending what you make, and you're used to taking breaks when you take them. So even then, some teachers were still missing their professional learning days. Some teachers were still missing their tutoring days because they just did not have the expectation that they were to be. So again, pitfalls for every calendar, but what we wanted to do was to try to provide you with about 5 or 6 different options to look at saving. Yes.
And when we get down to 160, you start excluding the block schedule. Yes, it's more of a traditional. That's because, again, you get into the Carnegie unit, which is one particular class, how much instructional time you're sitting there. You're really extending your school days out to the point where it's really not practical for that. You don't want kids getting home and covered. I do not, well, yeah, that's what we're going to do now. So you're correct. You could run a block schedule on a 160. We're looking at a school day of, I got 2 versions. You're looking at about an 8 to 3:45 day, 8 to 3:40, 8 to 3:45. In order to get those instructional minutes. Well, we could move it earlier.
Yeah. You could do earlier.
And then
When I was in Tennessee, we started at 7:30.
yes, and some school systems can do that. One of the challenges we face is transportation. Our earliest pickup already on a bus is 6:15, and to get people there earlier, we would have them probably do it earlier. So getting the kids to school is a challenge in of itself. Get them here at 7:30. We could do it. So we'll be out there
Or we
early.
can do our own daylight savings time. These months, we're going to do.
I do not know, I could not find any 160-day calendars that are used in Georgia on block schedule.
Murray, I think Murray's 160 according to Page now.
Yeah, that's coming up now.
That's correct.
They don't block or.
They are on a 7-period day. Yes, sir. And they go from 8 to 3:30. Well, they go 7:30 to 3:15 is their schedule. Now they go beyond a little bit because they're pushed it. They do 56-minute classes or 7 classes, and through that 160 days, they get about 149 instructional hours per class. Now you're required to get about 135. The minimum we can do if implemented would be about an 8 to 3:35 day in order to get that. And that's give or take a few minutes. We have to really get down there to lunches.
Does this take into consideration snow days that may or may not have? I know the state has been gracious for 4 days if your year ends on Friday. It's always given 4 days twice every year.
It does, and we've tried to implement there at the end by looking at, weather makeup days and those inclement weather days. But yes, the state recently has been very gracious in saying we're all in this boat together, so we'll waive certain numbers of days. But in the Murray County schedule, it's been tremendously beneficial for them in multiple ways, and that's certainly one of the ways one of the counters we wanted to present to you.
160 on a non-block schedule would start after Labor Day, and that would end just about right there at Memorial Day. Doing on the calendar here. Here's some example calendars how it would look based on our norms and traditions of breaks and things like that.
Now, do you have a team of people like administrators, teachers?
Well, the first thing we wanted to do was present it to you. We wanted you to have the information first to really start to take a look at, see if you had any other ideas. What we'll do then is we'll also set up groups, and we put this on the website as well, for public comment on what this would, because a lot of people would be very interested in some of these days based on childcare, based on work schedule, based on. So we want to make sure we hear their voice as well. The big thing is we'll really have to try to finalize this somewhere around the 24th of February when we start the budget process. Now, we don't have to approve a calendar until March, April. But if we have a tentative, hey, this is where we're looking at, we could really start to budget the numbers. Correct.
schedule of 178. Gilmer County School System is currently on a 178 schedule. This following the norms of this past year. This would be very similar to what it would look like starting on August 5th, which would be a Wednesday. Short break there in the first week of October. And again, that may be adjusted. And then, of course, November, Thanksgiving, December break, a few days off in February, and still on the 20th. Now, we have pushed all our inclement weather makeup days to the end of the year. We found with our community the one year we tried to take some of those. It was very difficult, even though we tried to warn everyone that those would be used and converted. Sometimes Mother Nature makes it difficult to get the word out at last minute. So we found it easier just to put them at the end.
And several things to remind everyone here. The number that was indicated are student days. Those are for students, not for teachers. So when it said 160, 164, 170, those are actually the days that students would be in school. Also, the dates that are noted are just dates that we have set as a temporary to show you how it would work out. Those are absolutely interchangeable and certainly will be allowed for revision or amendment.
178 currently is here in Gilmer, Gordon County, Liberty County. I believe counts recommending one of the next.
I personally would like to see our Teachers Day back to 180. And I know sometimes we go to 160 calendar, put in the time during those 19 weeks.
Now, for those school districts that are going back to 180, do we still have more instructional time than them?
If they did not change their school day time, yes.
We don't have a dollar amount associated with these calendars, right?
Our dollar, we kind of go on a rule of thumb of $200,000 per
About
school day.
$200,000.
About 210 for certified and about 23 for class.
And that's the same for every calendar?
Per day.
Yes, that's our estimate on that. So definitely wanted to put that information to you early so you can start taking a look at it. And then obviously we will get those posted as well for public comment and also for parent comment to make sure we are looking at the needs there for everyone. So certainly appreciate that. Any additional questions right now about the calendar?
Yeah, I just have one more comment. It's not really a question, but when it comes to the calendar, the linkage to the budget is so important because we have a $3 million deficit. Are we still projecting for next fiscal year a $3 million deficit if we don't make a change to the calendar?
else already, but I do it so I can work efficiently, not in case one day I get asked to pull them for an external request. So on that, there would be no reason in that sense to code them internally, since we can search in that way. It depends on how you want to approach the problem. There's more than one way to skin this cat, so to speak. And so depending on how the district wants to approach it, that's how we would approach it.
Well, I mean, we want to protect the public's right for information. We also want to protect ourselves from frivolous lawsuits. I guess we want to make sure that when people do need information, they get it affordably. That we're not charging them, an unreasonable amount or an unpayable amount to get the information. And the school, in my opinion, belongs to the community, and we should be able to give them information at a relatively low cost, especially if it's electronic. So for me, some type of standardized internal coding system, if that would drive down the cost to a requester, that seems like a reasonable thing to do, to at least consider. And for me, I guess I'm still up there at 23 years, somewhere around there for retaining females, but also I'm uncomfortable making that decision by myself. And we've got this communication plan that we're starting to talk about, but we don't actually have the mechanisms in place to get community input.
And this decision obviously does not have to happen tonight, because we are still doing, as was required or requested at the last, probably 2 meetings ago now, where we are still holding everything. So things are not disappearing or not being removed. Mr. Call still has access to be able to pull those, so we can do that at any time. But we do need to go ahead and make sure at some point we get this into place so that this does not become a concern later. But definitely wanted you to have the information about Google and to make sure that you knew what the parameters were at this time. Other questions? All right, thank you, sir. Miss Linda Waters will give us an update on nutrition, please. And you'll notice she is doing very well walking now with one shoe back, so we're thrilled to see it.
Good evening. We have before you the school nutrition financial report for December. And as you can see, our revenues were less than our expenditures by about $34,000, and that was planned because, as I told you in December, we did get a letter from the Board of Education telling us that we have too much cash revenue and that we must spend can see that our net worth did go down, and that's because of the increased expenditures of the revenues. You want to discuss with the GEC?
Sure. Absolutely.
I've asked that you approve a request to give approval for the 2015 GEC large equipment bid, and the GEC, just to refresh you with that, it's Georgia Educational Co-op, and Gilmer County has been a part of it for the past 9 years. It is a purchasing co-op comprised of 50 school systems, mainly in the North Georgia East quadrant. The GEC large equipment bid is comprised of 40 different school systems participating in it. And I chair a committee of 4 different directors that meet with vendors, equipment reps, meet with dealers, and regarding the formal bid. And we take the formal bids and evaluate them, and we put as many as 9 different brands out for bid. For a combi steamer, we've got 9 different bids, different brands. And we award the bids based on whoever is the lowest bidder for that particular brand. So, say for combi ovens, there could be 6 different vendors because we had 6 successful bidders. 2 were disqualified because they didn't meet the bid specs. And that is what we are asking that you, in the formal process, different members of the GEC hold different bids. And we participate in the food bid, milk bid, the bread bid, and so on. And as the chair, then we need to get formal approval, and that passes on to all the school systems that you have approved. Based on our recommendation, it goes to low bidder in each category. Questions?
So we will certainly be looking for approval of that bid for Thursday. Additional questions? All right. Thank you. Moving on, we'll look at transportation maintenance and facilities. Mr. Rothberg. Mr. Sutton, there you go. Oh, has he got it? I got it.
Really, all I have at this time is, we got buses, should be getting paid now. They are ready, they're waiting, scrap. Our inspection, they should be coming in this week.
Just give an update on our current building project down at Clear Creek. This is a schedule of work that'll be, you can expect over the next week, the next few weeks, weather permitting. Making quite a bit of headway. Most of the pads for the concession stand, the field house, and the food storage building have now been ordered. And we ordered the metal buildings. We're trying to finalize the specs on that. Installing the sewer and the storm drainage. We'll be seeing more of that. The rest of the fine grading is about ready to be done. They started to pour the pit walls. I'll show you a picture of that here. We'll just go right to the pictures. And you should have copies of that.
All right, I think we asked, I went out there the other day, I didn't go in the site, I didn't go down the road, I just kind of drove and turned around. All I saw was dirt, metal, and things, so these buildings are, I guess, over the hill, over the rise or something.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Yes, sir. The field house is right across from the grandstands, so where they used to be, and the walls are up there now. They'll start bringing in the trusses and heading into the next part for that building. The other one up there is the restaurant or concession stand, which sits right on your way into the field.
Next to the greenhouse.
Next to the greenhouse, so that'd be the closest one down the path there. And you can see from these pictures, they got quite a bit of the walls finished. The next step will be doing brick, because it's going to match Clear Creek Middle School with the same type of brick scheme that we have there, so it all matches nicely together. And then you'll begin the block work on the food storage building. That'll be a split-face block, again, it picks up the same color scheme as the rest of the building down there. One of the major things that they've dug and they started to pour the inside walls, and when you come over there, you'll see a lot of dirt. There's actually a lot of grading of the plumbing and a lot of the underground utilities have already been installed. As you can see in the picture there, we have to build the pits. These are for the lifts and buses to lift the buses up, and they go down about 12, 15 feet. They have to be reinforced, so they got to build the pit walls for them, and then the people that fabricate the actual lifts will come in and install that. So that's been poured. They'll do the hard slab, okay, around the buildings. And you can see the freezer food storage there, and then the maintenance building will be next. They're getting ready for that as well. So a lot of that has been moved out. Pretty much, for the most part, we're somewhat on schedule, weather permitting. The concession stand, field house, and food storage are on schedule right now as we speak.
And as I mentioned to you in the message the other day, we're about 5 or 6 weeks behind on the metal fabrication of the actual bus facility and transportation maintenance facility. One of the big things that's also a holdup is that the bus lift kit. They actually have to come in and manufacture each one of those individual components of that lift, so it is taking much longer than they anticipated. So everything else is ahead of schedule. The actual transportation and maintenance is about 5 weeks behind schedule.
And again, we invite you, if you'd like to go take the tour, this week you can take 2, or you have to do a pulse meeting before now, but we can meet you out there with the project manager, and if you'd like to walk the site sometime, do something good to know.
Get you a hard hat.
Or we'll get a few dates, get you a hard hat, and go out there and take a walk and stuff. A lot of things going on, very busy, but for the most part, everything is going pretty well. Any questions?
Any questions?
Anything on that?
Fantastic. All right, Mr. Sheriff, if you would come forward, please, for personnel, teams, and leads, just an update on that process for us.
Yes, sir. Also, if y'all, I know y'all been sitting very patiently. If you want to stand up, make a stretch break, you can. Give it a second when I switch it over. All right. This is the new teams and leads, which is the evaluation, the new evaluation system for teachers and leaders. What I want to go back to first, the first 3 slides. No, this is what we used to, we're required to do. It's part of the G2A teacher observation instrument. Most leaders in here, you're familiar with this. Excuse me, I'm mistaken. But essentially, you would do this 1 to 3 times a year. It was a 20-minute observation. It would usually go into a file at the school. They would also usually send it 1 copy to the central office, and that was it. Never to be seen again. It kind of disappears. That's not just a Gilmer County thing. That's a state of Georgia thing. Next, please. No, go back one. I'm sorry. That was what they call the Get Drives, Georgia Teacher Duty and Responsibilities instrument. Essentially, that's professionalism and communication. That overrode the observation. So even though you go into a teacher's classroom maybe just once a year for that 20 minutes, you also were observing communication and professionalism, and that if they received an unsatisfactory would make their overall annual unsatisfactory as well. Go to the next, please. That's the annual. Now, everything has changed. Where we used to could actually put it away, we can no longer do that. It is now on an electronic platform called the TLE. It's by True North Logic. And the state keeps up with everything. And teachers and leaders are required to do much more. I'll try to be quick about this thing, be very patient tonight. The first thing the teacher keeps effectiveness system, they have to the left there is the tabs. There are 10 standards. I'll look at that briefly. To the right, you see surveys of instructional practice. Students actually go online and do surveys of their teachers on standards 3, 4, 7, and 8. And it was interesting, they piloted this, Gilmer County did it last year, but the state of Georgia had 26 school districts actually doing this the last 3 years. And the biggest skepticism they had were that you and students are going to be allowed to tell me how to do my job. And what they have found is that the students are more accurate sometimes than the leaders because they're very honest, they have nothing to hide. So that has, and again, the surveys don't do anything but inform the task, okay? That's all they're doing. They're not in and of themselves standing alone. Then below student growth, you have teachers of tested students. And then up to the right, you have teachers of non-tested. Mr. Hofstetter last month talked about the SLOs that have been implemented, and that's where those come from. Next slide, please. This just briefly tells where it came from. Where it came from was House Bill 244, essentially saying that 50% of the evaluation has to be on achievement. Next, please. This goes through additional parts of House Bill 244. Feedback must be provided within 5 days. Evaluations will yield 1 of 4 explicit TIM ratings. TIM is a teacher effectiveness measure. It will either be exemplary, proficient, needs development, or ineffective. Evaluators must be trained, and all components are confidential. Next, please. This is the overall process for the year. It begins with orientation, self-assessment, pre-evaluation conference early on. As you see, familiarization is throughout the entire year. The formative assessment process deals with observations, not unlike what you've done before, except for now, where you could have had a teacher where you saw one time legally for 20 minutes. You now, administrators, I know you love this, you have to get in every teacher's classroom 6 times a year at a minimum. You have to have 4 walkthroughs to be at least 10 minutes looking at various standards. Then you have to have 2 formative assessments that they have to rate all 10 standards. Then they have to go back and put it in an electronic platform, and then they have to require evidence or ask for things that they may not have seen. So it's a different ballgame altogether. And again, the state at any time pops in and looks at it. Then you have the pre-mid sum conferences throughout the year, and then it all leads to a summative rating, which I'm going to look at a little more closely in a second. Next slide, please. These are just the 10 standards, 5 domains, 10 standards that administrators are looking for: planning, instructional delivery, assessment of and for learning, learning environment, and then finally professionalism and communication. 9 and 10 really took over the place of Get Drive, essentially. Georgia Teacher Duty Responsibilities Instrument. Next, please. This one. I just hit this already. Same thing. Next, please. Then also the observations do not have to be announced. They can be announced. They can be unannounced. If you're seeing a problem, typically you will provide an opportunity for an announced observation, so you can work to support the teacher. And again, this right here, the rating performance, this is instructional strategies. If you look at this, unlike, and this is the biggest difference for me, broke this? I apologize. You know what? It's more than those guys. This is the most telling thing for me when you look at the performance, the way it comes out. Because for years, educators have gotten so bogged down in, if you say needs improvement to a teacher, we've all experienced this, or that they're unsatisfied, it's the end of the world. You know, I need improvement. What do you mean I need improvement? And rightfully so, everybody in education, myself included, need improvement in some area, some facet. And so the biggest change for me has been the fact that it is a growth model. You are not stuck, okay? When you look at it at the level 2, that's what you would consider needs development. You may get needs development early on in the year, and that's okay. Because what it does, as far as I'm concerned, and I was going to tell Coach Schneider, congratulations, and also thank you for being an effective teacher, because that's the key. For us to improve all the things we talk about doing, creating effective teachers is going to be the key, period. So with that being said, if I'm a level 2 at any standard, it puts responsibility on the teacher, but it also puts responsibility on the administrator to say, okay, this is what I'm seeing, how do we make it better? How do I make you better? That is the key, period. And it's up to you as administrator to create more work for us as well, but it's to support the educator and help them grow. From a beginning teacher to a veteran teacher. We have many teachers who've been teaching 25 years who've never seen this stuff. They are entrenched. And so now to say, wait a minute, you got to do it differently, we're going to help you grow, we're going to be there to support you, they're like, I don't want to in my classroom. You normally only come once a year, why are you here? Okay, there's a change. The paradigm shifts completely. When you do this, when an administrator walks in, level 3 is proficient. That is the expected, that's where you start. So when anybody goes into a classroom, they're truly looking for proficient, and you move from there. So you may get to exemplary. You may drop back down to level 2 or level 1, and that's okay as long as you're doing it in the beginning of the year and working toward that and helping them improve. That's the key. Next, please. Those are just the 4 standards that, again, the students actually look at. Next slide, please. All of these inform the formative assessment. And what I mean by that is the formative observations, walkthroughs, any documentation that either a teacher presents or that you request. You can do that at any time. And then, of course, the surveys of instructional practices, they inform the rating. They help create it. Next. And these 2 next slides are going to be quite important as well. As they're going through the 10 standards to create what we call a TAP score, which is a teacher assessment on performance standards, they're each given a point value. And so if you look at this, obviously, if you're exemplary level 4, you're going to get more points. Go to the next slide, please. At the end, for your overall TAPS rating, you're going to find that to be proficient, which again is the expected level of all teachers, you have to fall in between 17 and 26 points. To be exemplary, 27 to 30 is huge. But we're expecting you, our requirement of you is that you be proficient. With that being said, the needs development, you could actually, from the 10 standards, be proficient in 7 of the standards and be needs development in 3 of the standards and still receive 17 points and thereby be considered proficient. Still means you need growth, you need support, that's what you're there for, but no teacher should be hopefully not discouraged when they see needs development. It's an opportunity for growth. To measure the growth, next slide please. I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to speed up for you. Next slide. These are just the 2 things we talked about as far as the tested subjects, where they get this data. That's the, generally speaking, it's going to be from CRCT, EOCT, and Georgia Milestones. It's lagging data. That's the reason they're still talking about CRCT. And then non-tested was essentially SLOS, which Mr. Hofstadter talked about last month. Next slide. This one. This is where I talk about how we cannot hide. Can't hide from the data. Difficult to do. It's so readily available for all of us. When you look at this matrix here, if you look, excuse me, at the horizontal axis, it says overall TAPS rating. Administrators are human. We have a human element to us. So obviously, we may be more lenient, I would say. You may end up giving somebody a level 3, which if you look there, it's the yellow, the bottom, the first yellow one, level 3. That's you giving them a proficient rating. However, if you look up, going up the vertical axis, that's where you're talking about student growth. And so when they look at CRCT, Georgia Milestones, EOCT, for the students of record for you, then what they're going to say is, okay, wait a minute, your administrator thinks you're proficient. Good for him or her. However, your scores are at a level 1 or a level 2, so if you go across, you're still in the overall needs development. So that, at the end, will be what you call your TIM score, the teacher effectiveness measure. So those things are huge. They're saying now that your TAP score is 50%, but your other part is 50% as well. So this is going to, and let me preface this by saying a TIM score for Gilmer County or any school system in Georgia that was not part of the pilot, you will not receive TIM scores this year, and I've been told probably not for next year. Your TIM score essentially will be your TAP score, which is just your observations. So they are not satisfied with the lagging data as of yet. Next, please. This is just for leader keys, essentially the same format. There are surveys now come from the teachers. The growth and the academic, they're looking at academic growth, again, student growth percentiles or SLOS for your students and record for the administrator, as well as achievement gap. And this is a huge step. An educator or teacher will be 50% is related to growth. For a leader, it's going to be 70%. That is student growth as well as academic achievement gap reduction or size. The same thing here is a little bit less as far as paperwork, orientation, self-assessment, performance goal setting, and pre-evaluation conference. Again, you have pre-med some. With this, and Mr. Coons is responsible for doing the principles. He's been doing that as well as we pre-med conferences. There's a formative assessment with that, and they're basically looking at the goals set for them. Generally 2, one of them has to be tied to the school plan. Next, please. Almost all. These are just 8 standards related as opposed to the 10 for teachers that are part of the leads. And then next, this is the last one. I threw that in there, and you can't see it. A little equation. God bless these people who come up with this stuff. But trying to come up with a student growth, or in this case, the achievement gap, they look at the Z-score. Those of you who have statistics remember that. But think about a bell curve. Your normal bell curve, you have a 3%, standard deviation of 3 either way. It starts at 0, 0 is the mean. To the top of your bell will be what the mean is. And then subtract that from your scale score. It's great. Last slide. This is it. Wrapping it up. The leader assessment on 3 things. On performance standards, rating, again, is weighing 30%. So what the principal or the superintendent views, that's going to be weighted as 30%. Student growth and academic achievement component will be 50%, and then the achievement gap reduction will be 20%. There's still a lot, I'll say this, I mean, they've been working on this for years, started in 2009, and they're still ironing out the wrinkles. There will still be more changes, again, like I said, for a 10 score or a may not come online until 2017. So we're still there, but everyone is implementing this part of this year. Any questions?
Definitely is a completely different way to view the representation and evaluation process. It used to be a very minimal process. It's now very detailed and also very weighty. So, yes, the state school superintendent, Mr. Richard Woods, at our last conference that we just had, noted that it was his impression we would not be looking at student growth as a part of teacher percentage at least until the end of the 17th school year. So, definitely still something we're going to be looking at. All right, thank you, sir. Very quickly, we're going to knock out a few items there off of new business. Number one, I had noted audit. We noted the audit, and basically what that is what Mr. Dillon was referring to earlier. We have undergone an audit, and once they come back with that information, certainly we will have Mr. Bramlett as the board chair sit with us and do that. Just wanted to update all of the February 18th PLU. On February the 18th, the entire system will be entertaining a professional learning day. Mr. Sheriff has set up individual pods, and obviously that took great deal of planning, so I'm very appreciative of that. All teachers will be going through sessions with the Georgia Department of Education. Also, even we do have local support from Ms. Jan Day. We're going to be looking at RESA support, and we even have voluntold 2 teachers from each facility, and they're going to be doing sign up for a process, but it would require them to do so. And again, that would require us providing that information to everyone so that they know how to sign up for that.
That's good communication for them to let them know anybody that wants the information can sign up.
Through one of these avenues. And that could be something we add directly with Mr. Call's assistance to our Gilmer County webpage, where we list the different items of note. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have the text messaging, sign up through this service, and we can do it that way through whole scale to get out to everyone.
Is he still doing the Spanish announcement?
Yes, anytime we try. He talks very well, and he's very bilingual, no doubt. No doubt. But we are definitely looking at all of those opportunities to try to get more information out. Certainly, in looking at the stakeholder groups to be identified, all taxpayers in Gilmer County, retirees, business, individuals, employees, students, strategic partners, media, and more. Absolutely, what we can do is elicit a group to do that. That would not be any additional concern for us to try to get that group put together, and even just send out something to say, are you interested in being a part of this, to see what the response comes back as. We can absolutely do that. Other thoughts any of you may have? Certainly, one of the things we're looking at regarding conversation and those types of things, making sure that we do, and I think one of the policies presented this evening, Mr. Officer, correct, was public participation. So making sure that we have that policy written out and make sure that we are ensuring getting that message out so that all are aware of how to do that process, and there is no mystery or lack of transparency there.
While we're talking about the public participation part, on the Thursday agenda, is it possible, since people have to sign up by 9 a.m. on Thursdays, to have their names listed on our agenda, topic?
Absolutely.
So we know, what's coming.
Absolutely. We'll do that. So anybody that either you received as Westmoreland or I received, we'll just make sure we got them on the actual agenda.
That might be updated, a lot of times we do get it maybe Friday afternoon.
And that's okay. Certainly through GSBA, we're absolutely allowed to amend an agenda to add items to, but the big point is making sure. And this Friday, when I left, I was under the assumption that the agenda had been posted. It did not get posted until Sunday afternoon. And so wanted to make sure that that was taken care of. And then it was updated and amended by Sunday afternoon. So we just need to do a better job of making sure that's taken care of. And that goes directly to my responsibility. So I'll make sure that that's taken care of. That is my concern.
We could maybe bump the deadline up too for board members to submit information.
Sure.
I'm kind of a last minute person, so if you tell me Friday, I'm Thursday.
And that is kind of what stalled the agenda a little bit, was to receive that information. But we will certainly amend that day as well. But that is okay. We will take care of that and get it noted for everyone. But absolutely, the big thing is continue to get the information out to people and look for new ways to do it rather than just relying on the traditional, which doesn't seem to be as effective as it used to be. So we need to make sure we're monitoring that more closely.
This, the framework is a very deliberate way of, building community engagement and involvement in the schools. The very last item that I had put on here, I wanted to kind of go over with the board since you hadn't seen it before. That wasn't from the notes from the Paul can do anything.
I didn't have, so I was trying to figure
Certainly, if there's a way for them to possibly set up some type of, for lack of a better term right now, a blog of some sort where they're able to get responses back to particular topics or items of note that will be on the agenda or possible agenda items. The format of the basic agenda stays the same. It does not change. So there are some things that they could absolutely go ahead and have feedback on that each board member could then get or elicit responses back in order for them to have feedback prior to coming into the meeting.
Right.
So if there's some way you would be able to work with them or work with us in order to set that up.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways we could do that. It's definitely possible. Put out specific questions or just general comments.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be specific.
Okay.
Ryan said either we
grants unless the acceptance of such federal funds has been expressly and specifically approved by an act of the General Assembly. As soon as this is passed, and it's already now been through both readings, every county in the state of Georgia has to present and apply for every grant and every loan through the General Assembly. They only meet 44 days out of the year, and they don't read the bills they're passing themselves. How are they going to read all those grants? They're claiming this Fiscal Accountability Act is so that you won't accept grants with strings that you can't comply with down the road. Well, I think that you all are more capable of reading the grants and deciding whether you can comply with the strings, or other members in the county can help with that, than the General Assembly being responsible. And it goes on to say, if you accept any money, or if you apply for any money outside of those 44 days, such funds shall be deposited in the general fund of the state of Georgia, and if they don't approve letting you apply for it, so if they decide that other counties were more entitled to those grants, the funds will be returned to the federal government. And this is House Bill 14. And the sponsor, Scott Turner really wrote it, who has usually been a friend of the counties. They think they're helping us, but this is taken away. This gives all the power to the General Assembly for everything applied for by this county and every other county. Now, House Bill 170. It's equally as critical. We might be sneaking in under the radar here because our vote is going to be in March, and this bill doesn't go into effect until July 1. However, the state constitution says that transportation gets all taxes on motor fuel. Now, they realize that they've been letting the loss and the e-loss and the splots be collected by the counties. This is on the radar. They're not going to let it happen anymore after July 1. The ones that are already in effect, so our 2009 ones, will continue to be allowed to collect. The fact that we're not going to vote on that, we're going to vote on this in March, we do know today that it isn't legal anymore. So don't count on the fact that our 2015 ELOS won't be enforced under the July 1, 2015 law, because we don't start collecting it until September. I'm not an attorney, and I don't know. This is being bantered back and forth by the all the other counties. This affects all the counties, just like it does us. But there's another thing in here that no one has said one word about, and I'll just read you this one little sentence here, and you all can see what you think. Because the way I read it, this huge excise tax will also apply to home heating, to propane. Okay? And if it applies to propane, all of our e-loss on propane won't come to us either. And that's huge, that we spend more on propane than we do motor fuel in this county for the Katrina also, the 1.1 million